Techstars is designed around a really smart bunch of a community itself. So we use mentors from the wider ecosystem to help the program work particularly well. What's interesting is the model, which has been replicated now over 1,000 times across the globe, is the Techstars model, not necessarily the Y Combinator model. Right, so as we all know, doing a startup is really hard. And the probability of you actually succeeding is actually very, very small. Sorry to tell you that, guys. So the current failure rate is something like 95% of all startups fail. Oh my God. What's interesting is Techstars has completely reversed that number. And over 90% of teams go on to be successful and raise additional money as being a participant in Techstars itself. So how do we make this happen? We are really lucky. We have got some really awesome investors, some of whom you will recognize are on the slide. Most of them are very progressive and very smart guys. And we're also really lucky that actually we're supported by mentors and entrepreneurs from some extremely smart startups, as you'll already see on the left-hand side, your right-hand side. So if you're really interested in Techstars, you can actually get a full breakdown of every single team that's ever been through the program. We actually break out all of the results. So none of this, we aggregate everything down. You can see line by line which teams have come from where, how many employees they now have, whether they're still existing, whether they're not, and how much money individually each of those have how much they've raised. And I think there's now over 300 teams have been through Techstars. So the unfortunate part is getting into Techstars is really bloody hard. In London, we had over 1,000 applications for 10 spots. And it's actually harder technically to get into Techstars than an Ivy League school. So where are we? Up until 12 months ago, we were just in the US. I'm going to have to turn around and read it because I always forget. But we started in Boulder. We've expanded into then Boston and Seattle. We've been to New York. Austin has just opened. It's just in the middle of program. And there's me. I'm in London. I am the rest of world strategy. So those people who can't get into the America because you've done things that you shouldn't have done and they throw away your passport, will have you in the UK, but you don't have to go to the US. So I've just finished my London program, and the London program had no Americans in it. It was all rest of world, which we deliberately did. And over half of those teams came from outside of the UK, including Serbia, Slovenia, Ireland, Colombia, and Amsterdam. So in addition to all of the different cities that we're in as Techstars, we also do programs for large corporates, because we feel that actually some, some corporates, so for example, we work with Nike on self-quantification, which is a super awesome program, and I'm going to show you a short video at the end, if it works. We also do RGA, which is Internet of Things, so anybody who's interested in hardware and software, they can do that, and the applications close, I think, tonight, for those that are interested, or the weekend, I think. And we also do stuff with education, which is Kaplan. So who are all these random people? The two people on the left, right, whichever, this side, are the guys who helped set the program up. So it was David Cohen and Brad Feld. And David essentially was an angel investor. And what he discovered was angel investing was really hard, and it required a lot of cups of coffee, and a lot of crossing of fingers, and more often than not, the businesses went pop. So he tried to fix the problem, and Techstars was him fixing the problem. And what he discovered was when you pick 10 teams and you give them small amounts of money and you work with them for a very long time, you can actually make a real impact. And it's not just him helping, it was the whole of the community. And that's where Brad Feld came in. So Brad is a very well-known VC in the States and has very, very strong relationships with some really smart entrepreneurs. The random person on the other end is me. I, 4 years ago, was very fortunate to meet David, who helped me set up a program that I ran called Springboard. And just before Christmas, he tapped me on the shoulder and said, would I like to run the Techstars London program? What he didn't know was 3.5 years earlier, when he was being a nice guy and just helping me set my program up, he was actually putting me on the longest job interview in history. And 4 years later, he eventually got around to offering me a job. So, random stats, but it's interesting. We've now almost had, by the end of this year, about 300 teams. We've raised over $300 million for teams. Each team raises about $1.5 million on average after the program. We've now done 20. We have over 1,000 mentors across all of the different cities. And we have a massive amount of investors, and we get huge amounts of applications. I'm not going to read these, but essentially, one of the things that we have done really well and are really valuable is we have some really super smart mentors from lots of different places and across the US and also in the UK as well. Right, I'm going to now try and play a video with sound. Is this going to work?
The accelerator for us has been idea creation and destruction. It has been a community. It's a combination of investment and mentorship.
Pitching, meetings. We start like at point A, and by the time we get to point B, we've like traveled 100 miles.
You know, it's energizing, it's exhausting, but it's electrifying.
Broken hearts, high spirits.
Unbelievable support. I can fit like 1 year's worth of work into 3 months.
So that's Techstars. We're going to confuse. We're going to bring on Stan, he'll explain a little bit about himself to do Q&A, because I actually think it's interesting not just to hear from me, but to actually hear from someone who's actually been through the program itself. Stan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello. Okay, good. Hi, everybody. My name is Stan Volkov. I am the Chief Operations Officer from TradingView. And we went through Techstars Chicago this summer, and we just had our demo day on August 28th. And we returned from the program just 10 days ago. So we went through the program this summer, and it's just been truly great.
So what do you do? What's your platform?
So TradingView is a network where investors exchange ideas to maximize profits. It's financial charts and a community. So Yahoo Finance, the way it should be.
So what was before you went into the Techstars program, did you have, oh, that was good scotch. So.
I can smell it on you guys.
So what was the biggest surprise when you entered the program? What did you not expect that happened?
That's an excellent question.
Thank you.
So we went there to learn. We knew that there was a ton of information that we didn't know, and we went to learn. What I did not expect was how informational and how just intense it would be. Just we got so much more out of it than I even imagined possible. Just the different variety of mentors, of help, They just really got us on our way.
So what, out of mentors and help, and there's probably camaraderie with the other teams in the program, what do you think became most valuable? Now that you're outside of it, what's the most valuable aspect looking back?
So absolutely. There was some camaraderie between the teams, but everybody was mostly doing their own thing up until about 2 months in. But the mentors have been, they've been helping us out. They've been mentoring us, week after week after week. We meet different people. And now that the program's over, we're part of this super cool, tight family of graduate companies, of people that we can reach out to. So amongst the network, if I need a connection to somebody, all I have to do is send an email to the network saying, can somebody introduce me? And for sure, there is somebody that knows somebody, and we can get that intro. So that's the biggest value after ending the program, aside from all the knowledge and investment.
Well, any questions from the audience? I can keep asking questions. Yes.
Thanks. A short question. Where are you now, guys, after the program ending? So what's your platforms doing? How it's doing? Do you have many users, or what's going on?
Got it. So we are probably one of the 2 teams that got into the Techstars US program that are from Russia. So we had a Russian office. We went to Chicago, spent 4 months there, and now we're going to open an office in Chicago. So they encourage people to stay. That's the whole point of the accelerators, that you come, you meet people, the local network, and then you stay there and help build a business there. For us, Chicago is perfect because we deal with trading. Some teams go back to their respective cities, or maybe some move to San Francisco or something, because that's where their application is better off. But we're going to stay in Chicago.
Any other questions from the audience before I ask more questions? What question do you have? I know you have 10 questions, but you're afraid to ask all of them. So just ask one.
I'm not afraid of asking any questions.
You're not afraid to ask any questions. You don't have any questions. Good man.
Thank you. What about hardware startups?
Hardware startups?
Yep.
Do you want to take that?
So during programs themselves, we've discovered about 1 in 10 of the teams now are doing hardware. There's a thing called Spherio, which is a little cool ball that you can play games on that rolls around the floor. That went through Boulder about 2 years ago.
You have a question?
But in addition to that, we've now just, as I said, RGA. So people don't know who RGA are, but RGA actually designed the Nike Fuel Band for Nike. That's where it came from. And we're just about to kick off a program with those guys to actually help support hardware, Internet of Things type devices, because we know it's a really exciting space to get into.
There's a question here.
Why are we here on Earth? Consume, have fun. Why are we here? 7 billion?
All of the above.
Good answer.
And the whiskey.
Any other questions? Yes, great.
So basically, how do you choose startups when they are applying to Techstars? How they get chosen?
So, actually, we'll do this back to front. How did they choose you?
I have no idea. In reality, I kept applying, and it took a while. So I applied to Techstars New York, got an interview, and they said, no, thank you. Then we got an interview in Techstars Chicago. It went on and on and on. At the same time, Techstars Seattle said, no, thank you. And then Techstars London said, please come for an interview after we got into Techstars Chicago. So it's all very independent, and it really depends on if you're chosen, depends on the other people in the batch. And you never know who those people are. So, just keep applying. That's what I did.
So Stan, okay, you want to answer?
So he's absolutely right. So just because you get knocked back once, you shouldn't necessarily give up. Because actually what you're doing is every time you apply, somebody's seeing you again. And if you get interviews and you start to listen to the questions, you start to build up feedback. It's not untoward where you will see teams applying and applying. And a lot of that has to do with very similar to a startup, which is you have to be like tenacious. Like you never take the first answer, even if it's a no.
Right. So on that subject, just to let me add to that, whenever I'm doing speeches and presentations, there's one subject that I think is valuable for this exact subject. The word no is not in my vocabulary as an entrepreneur. It doesn't exist. No never exists. What you translate no is really not now. Because whether or not it's with your co-founder, with an accelerator you're applying to, an investor, your boyfriend or girlfriend, no never means no. It just means you haven't proved it enough. You haven't proved to me you're worthy of me dating you. You haven't proved to me that I should accept you. You haven't gotten enough traction by customers. And when you do, is what we're saying right here is a perfect example. If you say no and you keep going back, the investor, the accelerator says they don't give up. And you can't fake that. It's in your blood.
So we have over 1,000 applications, and we have to pick teams, 10 teams in 3 weeks. You could actually spend 3 weeks just reading 1,000. So you don't spend a lot of time on applications. But if you actually make yourself known and get in people's faces, like at conferences like this, or as I described, my name's John. Yeah, I work for Techstars. You should be able to guess my email address. Yeah? If you can't guess my email address, you really don't deserve to be in Techstars. Yeah?
To that point as well, if you get it wrong, and it's a good email, it'll get forwarded to John,
Correct.
even if he doesn't get it directly. If it's a bad email, he'll never see it.
Yeah. So half of the teams that get accepted into my program, at least half, I know about them before they've even applied. So the idea that you apply and that's it. You have a 50% chance, but you have 5 teams in 1,000. The alternative is to be persuasive, to meet guys like this and persuade him, and he'll persuade me. So actually not just going through me, go through mentors, going through alumni. It's all the things that you should do as an entrepreneur in being really, really persuasive and tenacious. And if you can do that and you can get into our program, you actually deserve to be getting on our program.
Right. They mentioned another thing, because we've got about 5 more minutes, so if there's more questions, we're going to keep talking as long as you guys are still interested. But the comment he made about ask Stan to make an introduction. If you ever see a beautiful man or a woman at a bar and you want to speak to them, is it better that you go and approach them? Or your friend who's their best friend says, hey, they're pretty cool. You should talk to that guy over there. You should talk to that woman. If your best friend tells the other person that you like, it's better than going directly. You want everybody else telling John that you're the best entrepreneur in the world. And if he should come after you, you shouldn't go to him directly. Does that make sense? I heard a yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So I've got a bigger question, or a different question. Before you joined Techstars, and you were probably applying to many accelerators.
Yes, we were.
How did you differentiate in your mind the differences between the accelerators?
I just wanted to comment on that, but it's really good that you asked that. So what I did before I found out what accelerators even were, I searched for top accelerators and what they are on Google. Got Tech Cocktail article, top 15 accelerators in the country. Y Combinator was first at the time, and Techstars occupied a bunch of spots. So I went through and I just applied to all of them, right? But since then, I did more research on the different accelerators, and there are thousands, right? And many of them claim they can help you, but they really can't. So just like there are good and bad startups, there are good and bad accelerators. And Techstars is really the #1 accelerator now on the planet, in my opinion. And we're just super glad that we got in. That was a point, you know, you look at reviews, you look at companies that said what Techstars gave them. You look at the list of mentors, you look at investors. And, you know, seriously, if you can get in, if you get into Techstars, just do it. A lot of people say, you know, but they take, you know, 6%, but so does every accelerator. And there is, you know, it's totally, absolutely worth it.
So, I mean, on that note, would you rather have 6% of a billion or 100% of zero?
That's exactly it. As startups...
It's a pretty easy answer. And you can probably think of it as a comment earlier about how difficult it is to get into accelerators, whether or not it's Techstars 500 or all the others. it's become a known fact, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in more detail, but the alumni of the accelerators have become not only valuable, but more valuable than the alumni network of Harvard and Yale and the other major universities. That camaraderie, as you mentioned, pitching an idea to the forum, whether or not it's the top accelerators, that network, there's always one of your peers awake if you have a question, which is actually bizarre. Or there's a mentor that sees that and responds.
And the thing about Techstars is we're completely democratic. It's not who you know, it's not about how much money you have. If you're a smart entrepreneur, you can join this club. Yeah? It really, and the long-term value in some of the best accelerators will ultimately be in the network and knowing people. And it's hard to describe, but I see it on the inside. When I have teams that hit a barrier or a problem, there was a really good example. One of my teams is doing something in money payments, and Braintree was their payment system, and they couldn't get somebody to pick up the phone at the other end. And I sent an email to all of the MDs in our network and immediately got one back from Troy and said, oh, the CEO of Braintree, he's one of our mentors. And we just made an immediate introduction straight into the CEO, and suddenly the problem just went away.
Yeah.
And it's incredible when you have a bunch of people, and don't forget, this is a bunch of people who do this because they believe that it's good for the ecosystem. It's not a me thing. It's like, if you help me, this is going to come back and help me at some point in the future.
And don't get me wrong, so I'm a mentor at 500. I help out Techstars in New York, Founders Institute, Seat Camp. So they're all unique. And what he said earlier was, find the one that relates to your business. Yeah. In the geography, that have the mentors that would be valuable. There's many different flavors, and they're all good in their own right. Some are better, but it's really most important, what's your business? I mean, you might have a business that they're not experts in, but another accelerator is. But many businesses are appropriate for Techstars, is the way I look at it. Any questions? We've got about a minute and a half left, and you guys are all looking interested, but I want to make sure.
What was the single thing you learned during the program? The most important thing you learned? I didn't know this question was coming.
Those are the best kind of questions.
Yes, of course. The one thing that is probably my most important takeaway from the whole Techstars program is that relationships are everything. And it's not just about meeting the right person and taking something from them. It's about giving back. It's how the whole mentorship program works. And whatever, you just meet another entrepreneur and you help them. Just because. We helped 5 of the other teams with programming. Just because. And then they helped us with something else. Those human-to-human relationships is the one thing that you need to nurture and cultivate, and you'll be fine. You'll be successful.
We got one question up in the front.
My question is, you're looking only for some scalable startups, viable, or maybe social is interesting too, some social things?
We want startups that want to change the world. Simple. We really, truly want to find people who want to change the world and make the world a better place. And sometimes, actually, we have teams which are going to make a lot of money commercially, but they're going to actually have a huge social impact and change what it means to be a human being.
So one of the questions, John, you might have heard I ask before, closing up. I like asking this question.
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Thursday.
Now.
Yesterday.
So, many entrepreneurs. You look at hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals and teams and over the last years. And one of the things that I think is very clear for people to understand, what are the 3 traits? Yeah, exactly. You know this is coming. You probably got, I don't think I've ever asked you this one. 3 traits, positive and negative. So, okay, of an entrepreneur, but you have to answer in one-word answers. Personality traits. So what are the 3 traits that you think are the best traits of an entrepreneur?
Tenacity.
Tenacity?
The one they shouldn't be is...
No, let's go all the positives first. So tenacity is a positive.
willingness to listen.
So listen.
Ambition.
What's that? Ambition. Okay, so those are 3 important ones. So when you're thinking about all you guys, now the 3 negative ones that are the worst personality traits of an entrepreneur. No, don't pass the buck. Come on, investor.
So, I can't answer it in one
word.
One word. Ugh.
Don't you hate when entrepreneurs don't answer your questions?
I know.
You can't not answer my question, John.
It's like not listening.
So not listening is 2 words, but we'll do that as 1. What's 2 more?
Not being ambitious.
Huh? Come on, John. 2 more negative ones.
Negative ones. It's the opposite of the ones I've said.
So
not being global, not being ambitious.
So very small-minded local.
Yeah.
Okay.
So somebody said to me the other day, why do you always insist on things being really, really big markets? Because the chances of you actually hitting a really, really big market is probably really slim. And if you just undershoot it by a little bit, you've still got a really bloody big company. Like, this stuff is really, really hard. And the last is being overly fixated by the amount of equity they hold.
Okay, so that's many words, but I think you got the point. So don't be overwhelmed. Don't focus on the percentage point, like we said earlier, of equity.
Big pies.
Focus on big piece of a big pie.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Round of applause, guys. Thank you, John. Thank you, Stan. Appreciate it.